Okay, good afternoon. So this afternoon, we're going to have another lecture or discussion on the simple apprehension topic. Okay, so we are still on the simple apprehension topic, and the focus of our discussion for today is on definition. Remember that in the previous discussions, we discussed about idea or concepts, and then another discussion that we had focused on terms. Okay? So, yun yung last time. Ngayon naman, titingnan natin or pag-aaralan natin ano ba itong definition. And this is very simple class kasi ipapakita lang dito, this will show you how you are going to use or utilize the terms or the mental images that you produced, and at the same time, the words or the terms that you have. Okay? So, kumbaga, this is the combination of the mental picture na meron tayo na napoproduce sa isip natin through concepts or ideas, and then yung terms or yung words on how we describe the mental picture that we have. So this is the combination, and this is what we call the definition. Okay? So, before we move on to the definition part, tingnan uli natin ito. Sabi ko sa inyo, you always remember this kasi dito lang iikot yung ating discussion for logic. Okay? So, we have man is composed of body and soul, and because of that, we have different faculties or powers. Sabi natin, we have the memory, and then yung pinaka-focus natin is on intellect or is on intellect, okay, which is composed of three operations. So we're on the simple apprehension. We already discussed idea and the term, and now tingnan natin yung combination ng dalawang ito, which is yung definition. Okay, and then we have judgment, which we are going to discuss sa mga susunod na discussion, and the last one is reasoning. Okay, so please do not forget this para masundan nyo po yung ating discussion in logic. This is very important. Okay? So, balikan natin ito. Sabi ko, when we say definition, ito ay kung paano nyo gagamitin yung mental picture that you produced, and then the terms that we have on how you're going to describe what you have in mind. Okay? Sabi natin last time, balikan natin yung discussion natin. So, when we say terms, these are the concepts or that are communicated through words. Okay? And words constitute our speech. Sabi natin, words are composed of the different alphabets na pwede nyo isulat or pwede nyo sabihin or spoken words para mas maintindihan. Okay? So, we communicate through writing or through speaking. Okay? So, yun yung mga important highlights natin sa discussion natin last time of terms. Okay? So, I also gave you the different properties or characteristics of terms, and then tinignan natin yung iba't ibang uri ng terms, di ba? We have according to comprehension or meaning, and then terms according to extension and according to opposition. Okay? So, these concepts are very important, of course, in understanding our lesson for today, which is definition. Okay? So, let's start discussing about the definition. So, ayan. Okay. So, the term definition daw is derived from the Latin word definere. Okay? So, ang ibig sabihin ng definere is to state the limits of or to enclose within the limits. So, through definition or by giving definition, you are giving limits. You are enclosing something within the limits. Okay? So, sabi dito, thus, define a thing is to put limit on it. Okay? A thing can be limited by unfolding its nature, by getting its meaning, or by laying hold of what it includes. Yung sa lahat naman tayo, di ba? We know what definition is. In our exam, merong mga type of exams na kailangan nyong i-define. Di ba? You are given a certain word or phrase, and then you're going to write a definition about it depending on your knowledge about that particular thing. Okay? So, nangyayari ito, nakaka-relate tayo kasi palagi natin itong ginagawa. We define something through writing or through speaking. Okay? And we cannot define something or we cannot define a thing if we don't have any idea of that particular thing. Diba? Kailangan meron tayong na-produce na image, okay? And at the same time, we have the concepts already or we have an idea. So definition marks off the thing defined and differentiates it from other things. Okay? So through definition, a term is made definite as to its precise meaning. Okay? So yung definition ng isang bagay, it marks off the thing, and of course, it differentiates it from other things. Diba? Kaya nga, binibigyan mo siya ng limit, binibigyan mo siya ng identity, yung isang bagay, through definition. Okay? So sabi dito, definitions has three elements. So we have the definiendium, the definiens, and the denotata or the denotata. Okay? So let's first talk about definiendium. Okay? Definiendium is the term to be defined. So example, a bird is an animal with feathers such as chicken, owl, and ostrich. Okay, so this is an example. Again, a bird is an animal with feathers such as chicken, owl, and ostrich. So, for this example, yung definiendium po ay yung bird. Okay, sabi dito, napakasimple lang. Ang ibig sabihin ng definiendum ay kung ano yung dinidefine mo. Okay? Like for example, a bird is an animal with feathers such as chicken, owl, and ostrich. So, ibig sabihin, yung dinidefine mo po doon na word is yung bird. Okay? Ano ba yung ibon? So, sabi mo, a bird is an animal with blah, blah, blah. And again, when we say definiendium, that is the term that you are defining. Okay? The term to be defined. So, yun yung pinaka-highlight ng iyong sentence. Diba? Tinanong kayo, what is a man? A man is blah, 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 is composed of body and soul. So, for that particular sentence, the definiendium is the man. Okay? So, it's very simple. Now, let's talk about definiens. So, definiens is a word or phrase that explains or describes the defining property of the definiendium. So, ito naman, yung definiens, ito yung part ng sentence na nagdi-describe doon sa subject mo, okay? Or sa dinidefine mo. So, for this, meron tong dalawang parts, namely proximate genus and specific differential. Okay? So, proximate genus is the nearest class to which a thing belongs. Okay? Balikan natin yung example ko kanina, a bird is an animal with feathers such as chicken, owl, and ostrich. Okay, sabi dito, yung proximate genus is ito, such as chicken, owl, ostrich, animal. Okay, so ibig sabihin, dito sa definition na to, ito yung inyong definiendium, yung bird, and ito naman po yung mga characteristics na nagsasabi patungkol doon sa dinidefine mo. And that is what we call the definiens. Okay, that is the proximate genus. Kumbaga, ihinahalin tulad mo yung dinidefine mo sa mga ilang bagay. Okay? And next, we have the specific differentia. It refers to the essential characteristic that differentiates a thing from the rest of the group. Okay? So, ito naman, ito yung part ng definition kung saan binibigyan mo ng identity yung dinidefine mo. Diba? It's the essential characteristic na nagde-define sa kanya. Okay? It differentiates what you are being defined from the rest of the other things. Okay? So still, in the given definition, sabi dito, a bird is an animal with feathers such as chicken, owl, and ostrich. So, ito po yung kanyang specific differentia. Okay? So, yan yung mga basic parts ng definition. Okay? So, naiintindihan nyo naman kasi I know that when you define something, when you define a term, a word, or a phrase, ginagawa nyo yan, di ba? You-define kayo, minsan inahalin tulad nyo sa ibang bagay, and there is a specific characteristic that you put in your definition which differentiates what you are defining from the rest of the terms or from the rest of the terms that you have. Okay? So, yan. That is specific differentia, and proximate genus and specific differentia are two parts of definiens. Okay? So, yan. And next, we have the denotata. It provides a concrete examples of the extension of the definiendo. So, given the same example, a bird is an animal with feathers such as chicken, owl, and ostrich. So, dito, yung denotata dito is ito. Chicken, owl, and ostrich are the denotata. Okay, so please don't be confused. Balikan natin itong example ko kanina. A bird is an animal with feathers such as chicken, owl, and ostrich. Okay? The the definiendium is the bird kasi ito yung dinidefine mo. And then the definiens is the definiens, we have the two parts, yung proximate genus dito, yung kung saan mo siya ininahalin tulad, such as chicken, owl, and ostrich. That is the proximate genus. And ito namang with feathers, ito yung specific differential. Kasi dito mo makikita na yung bird is an animal with feathers. That what makes it different from the rest of the animals. Okay? So that is the specific differential. And for the denotata, sinasabi dito, concrete examples. Okay? So, ito yung mga nilalagay mong extension. Naglalagay ka ng examples para mas maintindihan po yung iyong definition. Okay? In the given example, the denotator there is the chicken, owl, and ostrich. Binibigyan mo ng examples yung bird. Okay? Para mas malinaw, mas maintindihan ng nagbabasa. Okay? So, those are the parts of the definition. So, yan. Now, we have different kinds of definitions. Merong iba't ibang uri ng definition. So, I know na that you are already familiar with this. Hindi nyo lang alam na ito, hindi nyo lang alam yung exact term ng uri ng definition. Because you've been doing this, di ba, in different examinations, in recitations wherein you are called by your teacher to define something, to define a term. So, ginagawa nyo ito. Okay? So, number one, we have what we called the nominal definition. Okay? So, in nominal definition, nominal is derived from the word nominalis, meaning having reference to a name. Okay, so in nominal definition, a thing is defined or limited to its term or name. Okay, so a nominal definition may be etymology, by synonym, by description, or by example. Ito yung pinaka-basic at pinaka-simpleng uri ng definition. Okay? So, yung word na dinedefine mo, tinitingnan mo kung saan ba nanggagaling, ano ba yung etymology ng word na yon, ano yung kasing kahulugan or synonym, and how would you describe that particular term, or you even give examples. Okay? So, tingnan natin po dito. We have different kinds of nominal definition. Pwedeng by etymology, pwedeng by synonym, pwedeng by description, or pwedeng by example. Okay? So, tingnan natin isa-isa. First is etymological definition. Diba? You are familiar with this, lalong-lalo na in your field, in the health science or medical science field, most of the terms are being defined using etymological definition. Okay? So, etymological definition states the origin or root word of a symbol. Okay? It may be said, for example, that philosophy comes from the Greek words philo or love and sophia or wisdom, so that philosophy is love of wisdom. Okay? So, this is just an example, class. Napakasimple. Alam kong naiintindihan nyo to. Etymology. Galing sa root word. Okay? Galing sa origin ng word yung inyong sinasabi when you do etymological definition. Diba? If you will be asked to define the word philosophy, some of you might answer philosophy comes from the Greek words philo or love and sophia, which means wisdom. So that philosophy is a love of wisdom. Okay? So you use the root words, you use the origin of the specific term being defined. Okay? So that is etymological definition. So yan. Next is we have synonym definition. Okay? For the synonym definition, it presents another word more popular or easily recognizable to clarify a given term. Ito naman, nagbibigay ka ng another word na halos kasing kahulugan at pareho nung term na dinidefine mo para i-clarify yung word that you are being defined. Okay? Para mas matandaan, mas ma-recognize. So, example ng mga synonyms that are being used or that are commonly used. Diba? For female, depending on the context, minsan ginagamit natin yung woman, lady, girl, and babe. Diba? So, instead of saying female, we sometimes use the word woman or sometimes lady, or depending on the context, minsan ginagamit natin yung word na girl, and sometimes we use the word babe. Okay? So this is an example of, these are examples of the synonyms that can be used in defining a particular term. Okay? So each of these words has roughly the same meaning as the word female, or a high degree of similarity with it rather than identity. Okay? So the more nearly equivalent the word is, the better the synonym definition will be. Okay? Take note that in doing a synonym definition class, you should choose the word na merong talagang high degree of similarity with the word or the term that you are defining. Okay? Para mas maintindihan. So again, kaya siya synonym because you are presenting another word that that is easily recognizable, and at the same time, nagbibigay ng same meaning. Okay? So that is for the synonym definition. Okay? So next, we have a description definition. So the description definition talks of a thing in terms of its physical appearance. Ito ay very common. Ito yung palagi natin ginagawa pag naatasan tayo mag-define, di ba? We describe it. Okay? Example, how do you define a tree or puno? Diba? So, maybe some of you would answer, a tree is a living being having roots, trunks, several branches, and leaves. Okay? So, in this definition, you are describing the characteristics or the properties of the thing that is being defined. In this case, the tree. Diba? So, it's a description definition. Minsan, ginagawa natin to, lalong-lalo na, pag merong word limit yung pinapadefine sa atin. Diba? Kadalasan sinasabi natin, dapat yung pag-define ko nito, makakagamit ako ng madaming words kasi merong number of words requirement. So, when you do that, gumagamit ka ng iba't ibang adjectives in order for you to describe, okay, a particular term, okay, or thing. So you use description definition. This is commonly used, diba, when you define a place. Okay, like for example, Nabwa. Nabwa is a town, is one of the towns or municipalities in Rinconada area, and it's composed of, let's say for example, 500,000 population. Most of them are Catholics. Okay, so it's located in the blah blah blah. So you talk about geography. Okay, so that is an example of a description definition. So napaka-common nito. And then, we have another type ng nominal definition is an example definition. Okay? Example definition explains the meaning of a word by mentioning some instances of it. Okay? So, for example, trusting may be defined as disclosing personal secrets or allowing oneself to be vulnerable. Okay? Dito, in this example, you are being asked to define the word trusting. Okay? So, another example is when you define the word wealth. Okay? Sabi dito, wealth as having number of bank accounts, or pag sinabi sa yung ano ba yung definition mo ng illustrations? Okay? When you say illustrations, these are diagrams, graphs. Okay? So, these methods are called example definition. You are defining or you are explaining a particular thing by giving examples. Okay? So, I hope this is clear. Diba? Napakadali lang namang intindihin. So, the first kind of nominal definition is, the first kind of the definition is what we call nominal definition. This is the simple, the very basic definition, kind of definition. And it's under that, there are four kinds. So we have etymological, we have synonym, we have description, and the last one is example definition. Okay? Next kind of definition is real definition. So sabi dito, it is derived from the Latin word realis, meaning having reference to a thing or reality. Okay? So, ito daw yung ibig sabihin ng real definition. So, a thing is defined by considering the thing per se. It does not declare what the thing signifies, but explains what nature is. Okay? So, another thing to consider is when we say a real definition, it's called an essential definition since it explains the nature of a thing. Not everything, however, can be assigned a real definition. Ito naman, kaya nga siya tinawag na real definition kasi what you are trying to put or to include in your definition is the thing per se. Kung ano lang yung about sa bagay na yun. Okay? Sabi nga dito, it's called essential definition. Kasi yung ini-explain dito sa type of definition na to ay yung nature of the thing. Okay? So, example, an essential definition limits a thing or term according to its genus. Okay? Example, man is an animal. Okay? So, yan lang. Walang iba. That's how you define, that's how you use real definition. Okay? Another example is, gumamela is a flower. Okay? So you use its genus, 'di ba? Yun yung isa sa mga indicator that you are using real definition. Okay? Pinapakita mo or yung ini-include mo, yung highlight mo sa definition mo ay yung genus mismo ng term. Okay? Gumamela or sampagita is a flower. Man is an animal. Okay? So, real definition. Pinapakita mo kung ano talaga yun. Okay? So, you are having reference to a thing or reality. Okay? So, you are considering only the thing. Kaya nga, the thing per se. It does not declare what the thing signifies, but explain kung ano yung natura or kung ano yung nature ng bagay na dinidefine mo. Example, man is an animal. Okay? So, that is real definition. So, yan. Next, we have other types of definition. Okay? Kasi yung dalawang kinds, meron lang tayong nominal and real definition. So, nominal, we're using different adjectives kasi it's classified into 4. While for real definition, sinasabi lang dito na ini-explain mo kung ano yung nature ng bagay na dinedefine mo. Okay? So, I hope it's clear. Now, for the other types of definitions, so meron tayong tinatawag na definition by property. Okay? So, definition by property gives the attributes of a thing instead of its true specific difference. A property is a quality which is rooted on the nature of a thing. Thus, if something has this definite nature, it has also this definite property or attribute. Okay? Example, man may be defined on the basis of property or attribute as an animal capable of speech or an animal with religious sentiments. Okay? Ano ba yung ibig sabihin nito? In simple terms, class, when we say definition by property, dinidefine mo po yung isang bagay, dinidefine mo yung isang term or konsepto using its property or attribute. Okay? When we say property or attribute, yung katangian niya. Ano ba yung capabilities ng bagay na dinedefine mo? Example nga dito, how do you define a man? Define it by property. Okay? So you will answer, man is an animal capable of speech. Or, man is an animal with religious sentiments. Kaya siya by property because you are highlighting the attributes. You are highlighting the property of that specific thing that you are defining. Okay? So, it gives the attributes of the thing instead of its true specific difference. Kaya siya by property. Okay? So, yan. Ito, example lang yun. You can give other examples under definition by property. Okay? Next, we have definition by logical accident. So, it gives an attribute of a thing which may or may not be present in that thing but may be expected of it owing to its nature. Okay? Saying that man is capable of education or capable of a wise decision is defining him by logical accident. Okay? So, yan. So, eto naman, when we say definition by logical accident, ang ginagawa mo dito is dinidefine mo yung term using words or using a description na nagsasabi kung ano pa yung kayang gawin or ano pa yung capability ng dinidefine mo. Okay? Sabi mo, eto, this is how it differs from property. Kasi dito sa property, you are very sure that that man is an animal capable of speech. Yan yung definition mo. That's the property, that's a specific property of a man. But when you say logical accident, you are giving an attribute of a thing which may or may not be present in that thing. So you're not yet sure. But you are expected, but maybe expected of it owing to its nature. So you are just using your logic. Diba? So sabi mo kanina, you define man by property saying that man is capable of speech. So dito naman, when you define man by logical accident, so sabi mo, man is capable of education given his nature, di ba? Alam natin na may kakayahan tayong tao na matuto. So, kaya you are defining man as capable of education or capable of a wise decision. So, that is logical accident. Okay? So, I hope this is clear kasi madali lang na maintindihan, di ba? You are giving attributes na ini-expect mo dun sa dinidefine mo. Okay? So, next, we have definition by cause. Okay? So, definition by cause, it gives the factors that contribute to the constitution of a thing as such. Okay? So, there are 4 causes that may be cited. First, final. The next is efficient. Third is material. And the last one is formal. Okay? So, tingnan natin para mas maintindihan natin yung definition by cause. Okay? So, definition by final cause states the purpose of a thing. Okay? When you define using a final cause, hina-highlight mo dito yung purpose ng bagay or ng thing that you are defining. For example, a thermometer may be defined as an instrument for measuring body temperature. Okay? So, this is an example of a definition by final cause. Dinidefine mo, sinasama mo sa definition mo, dinidescribe mo kung para saan yung bagay na yun. Okay? So, example, a thermometer, and another example is watch. Okay? Watch is a mechanical device for telling time. So, these are examples of definitions by final cause. So, next is definition by efficient cause. Okay, when we say definition by efficient cause, the origin of or factor that produced the thing is defined. Okay? So, example, man may be said to be a creature made by God. And another example is yung chair. How do you define a chair? Using an efficient cause. It's an artifact made by a carpenter. Okay? Dito sa final cause, dinidiscuss mo and i-explain mo, you are showing the purpose kung para saan yung bagay na dinidefine mo. Whereas, in definition by efficient cause, hina-highlight mo dito yung origin ng bagay na yon or nung term na dinidefine mo. Halimbawa, chair, it's an artifact made by a carpenter. Or you can also use the term house, diba? House is an establishment made by architect, by a carpenter, so by an engineer. So, dinidefine mo, nilalagay mo kung ano yung origin or yung mga factors that causes the production of that particular thing. Okay? So, that is definition by efficient cause. Next is definition by material cause. It states the stuff or material from which the thing is made. Okay? So, for example, a nipa hat is a structure made of nipa and bamboo. Okay? Ito yung example. Kaya siya material cause kasi nilalagay mo sa definition mo yung mga stuff or material kung saan gawa yung dinedefine mo. Okay? Example, nipa hat. So, when you define it using material cause, sasabihin mo, a nipa hat is a structure made of nipa and bamboo. So, by that, you are defining the term, and at the same time, you are also highlighting the materials from which the thing is made of. Okay? And another example is pencil. Pencil is a writing instrument made of lead or charcoal enclosed in a slender piece of wood. Diba? So this is a very concrete definition wherein you are describing what a pencil is and kung saan gawa yung lapis. Okay? So that is by material cause. So, yan. You can also define terms like, for example, cell phone or a cellular phone. Diba? When you define it, you will be stating that a phone or a cellular phone is made of different microchips. Diba? It has a battery enclosed or in uh, built in, and then meron din siyang case. It's made of a hard case. So, mga ganyan. Binibigay mo yung materials na um, bumubuo dun mismo sa term. So, that is definition by material cause. Okay? And next, we have definition by formal cause. So, definition by formal cause states the form or constitutive element that makes a thing what it is. Example, a man may be defined as an animal with a rational soul. Or, yung car naman, a car is a motorized vehicle for transport. Okay? So, ito, formal cause, ang hina-highlight mo dito in this type of definition is yung form or yung constitutive element. Okay? Kung saan, kung ano yung purpose ng bagay na dinidefine mo. Okay? The constitutive element and at the same time, the form. Kaya nga dito, di ba, sabi a man, using formal cause definition, you will be defining this or you will describe a man as an animal with a rational soul. For a car naman, a car is a motorized vehicle for transport. Okay? So, yun. Those are other types of definition. We have the definition by property. The highlight for this is yung attribute. Diba? Nang dinedefine mo. And logical accident, you are highlighting an attribute na hindi mo naman sure if that particular attribute is present in the thing you are defining, but using its nature, using your logic, you are expecting that thing na meron siyang capability na binigay mo. Okay? I mean, meron siyang capability katulad ng dinidescribe mo. Okay? That is by logical accident. And then we have definition by cause wherein it has 4 kinds. So we have final cause, efficient cause, material cause, and formal cause. Okay? So I hope these are clear. Kalimitan naman ginagawa na natin to. Iniisa-isa at inihimay lang natin dito. Then we have rules for a good definition. Of course, this is very important, lalong-lalo na that we are talking about definition. Okay? So, yan. Ano ba yung mga rules para sa isang magandang definition? Okay? Because we are using words, we are using adjectives, and we are using a lot of terms, diba, in defining a particular concept. So, una, sabi dito, you avoid circular definition. Okay? Ano ba yung circular definition? Yung parang paikot-ikot ka lang, di ba? There are students who practice circular definition, lalong-lalo na pag hindi naman talaga alam yung answer, di ba? Sabi dito, a circular definition usually repeats the defined word in the definition. Paulit-ulit mo lang na sinasabi. So, hindi ka na maintindihan. So, it is also circular when it defines two words in terms of each other. Okay? Ano ba yung mga example ng circular definition? Example, a cookbook is a book used to cook. Okay? So, parang napaka-obvious naman na you don't have to say it. And at the same time, nagkukos siya ng confusion because of using the word book redundantly, diba? Paulit-ulit. So, that is an example of a circular definition. Okay? Another is, a cause is that which produces an effect. So, parang napaka-obvious naman na kaya nga siya cause because it produces an effect. So, you don't have to say that anymore. So, avoid circular definition, most especially when you write, diba, in your examination paper or when you recite and when your teacher asks you to define something, so please avoid circular definition. So, there are teachers na mas gusto nila yung direct to the point. Lalong-lalo na sa mga examination. If you are taking bar exam, so hindi pwede yung mga circular definition. Lalagyan mo lang ng paulit-ulit na word just for the sake na ma-answer mo or makadami ka ng word count. Okay? So, avoid circular definition. Next, we have avoid too broad or too narrow definition. Ito naman, ito yung masyadong general yung definition mo. So, hindi din yun pwede or hindi din siya maganda. And then, too narrow naman, yung sobrang narrow or specific ng definition mo. So, hindi din siya maganda. Okay? So, if the definition is unduly broad, it will cover too much, di ba? Failing to rule out things that are extraneous. Okay? Napaka in general, na hindi mo na makuha kung ano ba talaga yung ibig sabihin ng dinidefine mo. Example, a book is a rectangular object. So parang, hindi lang naman yung libro, di ba? Yung rectangular object. So, hindi mo naman binigyan ng hustisya yung definition mo kung ano yung libro. Hindi ka nagbigay ng important information that will make the readers or listeners understand what a book is. Kasi nagbigay ka ng napaka-broad na adjective or definition ng bagay na yun. So, you should avoid this broad definitions. Number 2, or another thing is, if the definition is too narrow naman, it will cover too little, excluding things that should be included in the term. So, ito naman, it's the opposite of the broad definition, yung masyadong narrow. Okay? So, example, human being is an intelligent, self-aware tool making language using animal with emotions, with 5 senses, movement, which has moral and religious sensibility. So, parang masyadong confusing na yung mga binibigay mo. Napaka-specific na hindi na makuha kung ano ba talaga yung essence ng word na dinidefine mo. So, it covers too little information which may exclude the things that are important. Okay? So, yan. Too broad or too narrow definition. So, you should avoid that and define terms. Next is, avoid vague, obscure, or metaphorical language. Ito, usually we do this, lalo na pag wala tayong maisip, di ba? Or pag wala tayong enough knowledge tungkol sa dinidefine natin. Sabi dito, a vague definition is unclear because it does not give any precise criterion for membership of the concept. Okay? Again, a vague definition is unclear. Hindi siya malinaw because it doesn't give any precise criterion for membership of the concept. So, ito, vague. Kaya siya hindi pwede. Kaya you should avoid vague definition kasi ito ay hindi nagbibigay ng malinaw at precise na characteristic ng concept that you are defining. Okay? That is vague, malabo, okay? Unclear. Next is obscure. An obscure definition is unclear because it uses abstract or technical language that is more difficult to understand than the concept. So ito namang obscure. This happens when you use terms that are not too familiar with the readers or listeners, di ba? Na parang mas ginawa mo pang komplikado, instead na bigyang linaw yung word na dinedefine mo, mas ginawa mo pang komplikado because of the use of words that are not easy to understand. Okay? So that is obscure definition. So you should avoid that also. Okay? Example nito, when you define the word death, what is death? So, death is the cessation of one's participation in finitude. Diba? Parang pwede mo namang simplihan lang yung definition. So, please avoid using words that are not easy to understand. Okay? And then, we have metaphorical definition. Okay? So, metaphorical definition is unclear because it does not give the literal meaning of the concept but only an analogy that requires interpretation. So, it generally uses figurative or emotive language that adds to the ambiguity. Ito naman kaya nga siya metaphorical definition. This happens when you use a lot of metaphors in defining a certain term or concept. Okay, sabi dito, this is a definition that is unclear and therefore not easy to understand kasi hindi mo binibigay yung literal na meaning ng term or concept na dinidefine mo. Bagkos, nagbibigay ka lang ng analogy na kailangan pang i-interpret. So you are giving another task, you are giving an additional task to the readers or listener na dapat nga, upon giving the definition, makuha na nila kung ano yung ibig sabihin. But when you use metaphors, you are giving an additional task to the reader or listener kasi subject for interpretation yung binigay mong definition. So it adds to the ambiguity. Diba? So, papahirapan mo pa. Okay? So, eto class, this remind us not to use vague terms, not to use words that are abstract or mga highfalutin words and defining terms, and then limit the use of metaphors, okay, in defining terms. Then we have avoid loaded definition. Okay? Although, dun sa unang type ng definition, di ba, pwede kasing magbigay ka ng definition by giving examples, by discussing its etymology. So, even though you are allowed to do that, you should also limit the words that you use in defining terms. So, you avoid loaded definition. Okay? Sometimes definitions are used for persuasive purposes and are charged with positive or negative emotions. In such cases, they are considered loaded. Okay? So, hindi din masyado maganda yung um, mga loaded definition. Okay? So, yan. Okay. So, sabi dito, avoid negative terms. So, negative definition should be avoided because a definition should state what a thing is and not what it is not. So, this is very important class when you define a particular term or concept. Iwasan yung mga negative definition. Kasi yung purpose why you are defining a term or concept is para ipakita kung ano yung capability ng dinidefine mo. Hindi para ipakita kung ano yung hindi niya characteristic. Okay? So, avoid negative terms. And then, we have the last one, state the essential attributes. Okay? So, a definition should present the essential attributes of the concept being defined. So, this is very simple to understand. Kailangan present yung essential attributes, diba? Kailangan hina-highlight mo sa definition mo yung mga attributes, yung mga properties, qualities, or characteristics ng term na dinidefine mo. Because that will make your definition easy to understand and more recognizable by the ones reading it or by the ones listening to you as you define that particular term. Okay? So, yan. State the essential attributes. So, yun. These are some of the key points that you have to remember in defining words. Okay? So, dito magagamit na natin yung pagiging creative natin, yung knowledge natin about sa terms or concepts that we have. Diba? And pagaganahin talaga natin yung isip natin dito. And this is the work of the intellect. Diba? Under simple apprehension. Okay? So, we already have the concept or the idea kasi merong mental images na napuproduce sa isip natin. And we communicate, we express the mental images using words, diba? Through terms. And then, we communicate the terms through definition. Diba? We are able to describe a certain thing. We are able to give examples. We are able to think of its characteristics or attributes through definitions. I hope nakukuha nyo yung relationship ng simple apprehension, and then under that, the term the concepts or ideas, the term, and lastly, the definition. Okay? So, yeah. So that's all for today's discussion about definition. That was a short discussion kasi madali lang naman tong intindihin. And hina-highlight lang dito kung paano ba tayo makakapag-communicate effectively, most especially in defining terms. Okay? So, I hope clear po ito sa lahat. And if you have questions, so message na lang sa group chat. Okay? So, ayan. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you learned something from our discussion this afternoon. Thank you!